Hello today, and it is a special day. All days are special that we find ourselves still here. This is Lou Porter, and I am in the studio today. This would officially be our kickoff, and it is our kickoff for the rest of the week. We'll be having different persons coming in to talk with us and to share what they know about KBBG or what it has done for them. Basically, this is our our membership, and we'll be talking a lot about that. Right now, I'm joined in the studio, Dr. Sharon Clayton, professor at the University of Northern Iowa, and Warren Wortham, who is associated with Hawkeye Community College.
Yes.
All right. Please excuse my voice, it's not so good. So, Sharon, I'm going to turn it to you for just a minute.
That's not a good sign because we have a long week to go here, and in terms of trying to get a message out to the community regarding the status of KBBG radio station and also the status of black media here in the United States in this very, very crucial presidential election year. I think that, Warren, as we begin to talk this morning, of course, knowing what the station means to you and then having a sense from you as to how the station contributes or really spreads its wings out to the community, just to get us going. Why not introduce yourself and talk in that particular direction?
Okay, sounds good. Good morning, everybody. My name is Warren Wortham. I'm the manager for the Martin Luther King Jr. Center at Hawkeye Community College. When I was asked to come in and kind of talk about what the station meant to me, several ideas went through my mind, but then I remembered, I got to make sure I can keep it close because I can talk for a few hours.
Well, we have a lot of talkers here.
We have a lot of talkers, yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to touch on, it brought back memories. I was thinking back to junior high and high school, those early mornings getting ready for school. I was a spoiled kid. I had the curl back in the day, and so I remember in the mornings being in the kitchen, radio always being on, and that radio station was always tuned to KBBG. And so there was almost like a set sung playlist that kind of lets you know where you were at in the morning.
In terms of getting dressed and
Yes,
getting out, right?
definitely.
Right.
And so I printed out a little information on 3 songs that always really stuck in my head that let me know it's time to almost hit the door.
I'm loving this.
And those 3 songs were Atomic Dog by George Clinton,
Okay.
Try Again by Champagne,
Okay.
and Eddie Grant's Electric Avenue.
So by the time Electric Avenue came on,
It's time to...
you were hitting the door.
Yes,
Okay.
and then you catch it in the car.
Right.
And so I remember, back then being a youngster, you kind of took it for granted that KBBG had always been there, was always going to be there. It wasn't until I got a little bit older that you realize that, you have to really appreciate what this station has done for the community as far as getting information out there, as far as providing quality music both in R&B, blues, and jazz, and then also in helping to mobilize the community when it comes to certain activities or things that we need to mobilize to come together upon, on. And so I think a lot of times youth, you don't think about those things, you kind of take it for granted. It's always there, it's going to be there, but you don't realize that it takes money, it takes effort, it takes time to actually put into a radio station to keep it going and to keep it up to quality, because after all these years, a lot of businesses, the quality suffers and eventually they fade away and fall off. You've never seen that with this station. KBBG has always looked to innovate, to stay on top of the latest trends in both technology and program format. And so I think one of the things, to me, I look at KBBG as being a trendsetter, a leader, an innovator, first of its kind in this area. And I think a lot of young people need to sometimes take time out, or their parents need to take time out and kind of give them the history of KBBG, because when you really look back from its humble beginnings in the basement, to where it's at now, it's really, really quite spectacular.
It's awfully spectacular, and I'm wondering, Warren, you say the humble beginnings in the basement and to where it is now. but in terms of the values of the station, those seem to be consistent.
Yes.
And, you know, a lot of people can go from rags to riches and their heads get pretty big. But can you comment on at least the mentality of the leadership of the station in that regards?
When it comes to programming, and you talk about things in that area, I can talk a little bit about even the music format programming. Where a lot of stations, once they would grow to a certain size, it was kind of anything goes as far as format what they play.
Okay.
And I've always been, even though I'm part of the hip hop generation and part of that hip hop culture, I've always felt that it was a responsibility though of the radio stations to make sure that the messages that were coming out of whatever music they played still was positive to our community. I've seen a lot of stations move to, we're big now and we're going to play whoever's the biggest thing no matter what the message is.
Regardless of the content, yeah.
Yes, and that's never been one of the issues that I've seen take place at KBBG.
So you're saying that not only has KBBG been an excellent steward of their finances and moving the station forward, but they have also been an excellent steward of the messages that will be positive in moving our community forward.
Yes, because growing up as part of the hip hop culture, I think one of the worst things that has happened to our youth is they've been given access through open media to very negative messages. And so a lot of times both in television and on radio, they hear some of the most negative messages and they try to mimic that and it kind of programs our youth. I've never seen that happen here at this station.
Okay. We've been joined in the studio too by our illustrious program director here at KBBG, and I'm wondering, Deb, are you wanting to say anything at this time?
First of
And
all,
introduce
good morning.
yourself. Yeah.
Good morning, audience. And I cried when I heard that you were actually going to be in the studio, Warren. I thought I was pre-recording a show for you. So thank you so much. We need more people like you, okay, that really appreciate the services that KBBG has been able to provide. Now, the humble beginnings, I wasn't, well, yeah, I was living on the East Coast, but I saw the humble beginnings and I knew the humble man, my stepfather, Jimmy Porter, Porter's late husband, and talk about humble. Humble. It was never about, oh, we're big now, we're the big dog, you know, we have this radio station. It was like, to me, Jimmy Porter wanted to help people, not just African Americans, but anyone who needed to be restored. And our restoration had to do with restoration, convincing ourselves of our own human worth. Okay, so it's like, and you have to be able to get information, and you have to be able, like, to look at the harshness of reality and make sure that you're not repeating that same harshness or injustice. Okay.
So you want to keep it moving forward and not go backwards and not wallow in, so to speak, the past.
Right, and I think Alicia Jefferson said it very well when in her poem she called it Controlling Images. And before KBBG, again, to put it in historical perspective, the next year, okay, KBBG founded in 1976, and in 1977, that is when Roots aired, the series, okay? And before that, we were not controlling our images. You were whatever media labeled you as.
And actually,
so this counters.
Yeah, actually that's what's happening today. When we look around the country, blacks own less than 1%. If we're talking full power commercial radio stations, blacks own less than 1% of commercial radio and television stations, and less than 3% if we just want to pull out radio stations. And so those two media and their ability to really establish images of blacks, our ability is shrinking because our outlets are shrinking. And so the perpetuation of the negative stereotypes,
Yes.
the cold hip-hop music that deals with the B's and the H's, you know,
Right.
all of that will blossom because
Integration sells.
we don't have control. Blacks are in trouble, it's said, because for so long those images of us have been controlled by other people.
Yes.
And we are in a position now here in Waterloo to maintain our arms around the control that we have with shows that are locally produced by members of our community that will propel us forward. So this notion of media and images and KBBG and providing a stability of forward-thinking images is extremely important in this day and time, because as the outlets shrink, the negative images that you see in movies, the negative images that you see on television, the negative images that you hear through the music and cultural transmission via the radio will proliferate.
Yes.
They're not going to shrink. They're going to proliferate. And so little brother, John, who's growing up, he may only know those negative images,
Exactly.
and the cycle continues again. And that's what we've got to break, and that's what KBBG has been doing. Lou, you didn't want me to talk this long this morning, but I do want to direct people to an article entitled Black-Owned Media Suffering Slow Death. And this is a warning from advocates, and it was published July 26th, and the source is the Call, the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
Okay, they had an incredible article covering the conference, the 41st annual conference of the Rainbow Push Coalition, entitled "Can We Keep Hope Alive?"
Yes.
Without the media, we can't do that. So folks, as you're listening, remember this is the first official day of KBBG's membership drive. But, we like to remind people that any time is the right time to become a member of KBBG's family here, so that we not only keep hope alive, that we can continue to design our own images
Yes.
and produce those shows that will move the Waterloo community, the greater Waterloo community and Cedar Falls, forward in this 21st century. Lou?
Thank you so much. I'm also hoping that we'll be hearing from people naturally who are calling in to become members here at KBBG. Please excuse my voice. It has been 35 years of progress, no matter what has come about somehow or another. The community and KBBG, who grew up together, literally, the radio station and community did grow up together. So there are a lot of people who, like Warren, he got the message, he got the story, he could tell you the history. That's what we're talking about, Bev and Sharon. What frightens me about my children, and they don't have to be my blood children, children in general, what their little lives are going to be like. If you've been fed something for 20, 25 years, and nobody has ever set you down to tell you the things you need to know, then your contribution has to be somewhat, well, not only restrained, but non-existent. And so I want to appeal to our parents of these young children who are in elementary school, starting their little lives in kindergarten, even pre-kindergarten, that if we don't tell them the story, who will? And as Jimmy used to say, the bear will always lose until he learns to write, because someone else is writing his story, so therefore they write it the way they want to write it. So until we learn that we have to do that for ourselves and teach our children, it's not up to anybody else. We have to teach our children what we want them to know. So, go Bev.
Well, that's why communication is so important, the give and take, dialogue, because you can talk and not really get anywhere. And like one of the other great attributes of Jimmy Porter was that he was